ldy.gg/s/OOB3. Join us in person at Taco Taco in Toronto, Canada on June 14th and 15th, 2026 for all of the speedruns. And as a reminder, if you would like to volunteer applications are still open and close on Sunday, April 19th at 11:59 p.m. EDT. There are remote and on-site positions available, so please make sure to get those applications in soon. And as you said, we're watching Attract mode, which shows off tons of showcases, such as, we could go fast, we could show off Animal Crossing towns, we could paint a mural, we could compose some music, we could bake a video game-related pie, we could teach our girlfriend how to play Magic the Gathering. Could be fun. So here on the stage, we have Professor Burtch doing Magic the Gathering, how to play, teach my girlfriend %, teaching blackheartwings. Y'all, what's going on?
I love that it's become our girlfriend.
Yeah. Hello all, we have untapped all of our lands and we're ready to start our game again. So please put your hands together for Professor Burtch as she teaches her girlfriend how to play Magic the Gathering. Blackheartwings and Professor Burtch, the stage is yours.
Game is a very loose and generous term here. It depends on how you want to define it. Because actually we failed to also point out the fact that we have someone else with us tonight. As you could probably see in the last line of this agenda. Before you ask, Quack, no, I am not explaining the stack tonight. Anyway, would you like to introduce yourself, Quacksilver?
Hi, friends. I'm Quacksilver. I am the commentary antagonist for tonight's performance. Fun fact, we restarted the game through use of Karn Liberated's -14. My goal is to just drop as many incomprehensible things so the debt for what Burtch has to explain after this showcase is as high as possible. I'm so excited to be here. This is going to be great.
We're foreshadowing at least not just parts 2 and 3 of this, but probably parts 15 at a certain point. Because Magic the Gathering just has that much in it. We're not going through any of that past a certain point. What you see on the agenda right now is the extent of it. We're literally going to be talking about what a magic card is. So basically what I'm saying is that I'm going to be teaching Gabby basic algebra, and Quack is going to be trying to teach her third year college level calculus. So
It's going to be great. I have a notebook and a pen. I'm gonna take notes. God, I hope this
anyway,
is fine.
Speaking of how everything's going to be fine.
It'll be fine.
Lesson number 1. The anatomy of a card. There are many pieces of information on a magic card. As a brand new player to the game, there are only 5, count them, 5 pieces of information that are relevant to you as a player to play this game. Do not pay attention to anything else, even the art.
But that's my Blorbo! First of all,
targeted.
You're using... First of all, how dare you? Second of all, it's my boy!
The 5 pieces of information you need to know are
Targeted.
card name, mana value, type line, text box, power and toughness. Card name, because in a lot of cases, you'll need to know what the card is to cast it, as well as in the case of Hope here. Hope is a legendary creature, and there can only be one of a legendary creature of a specific name every single on the board on your own board at any given time. So you can't have 2 Hopes. One Hope is enough. You'll need to know the mana value, because the mana value, or as some old heads in the chat may also know it as converted mana cost. This is the mana you need to spend in most cases to be able to cast this spell in any way, shape, or form. Type line, once again, is going to tell you more key information about the card itself. More often than not, if you see another card reference, say, a specific type, like, say, human, wizard, cat, Eldrazi, you're going to want to look on a spell's type line to see if that applies. Then your text box here is going to have a lot of text. That's why it's the text box. And it's going to have a lot of information all at once. But luckily enough, because there is so much to Magic the Gathering, Quack, how many pages did you say the comprehensive rules had?
The Magic the Gathering comprehensive rules is a 308-page PDF.
Yep. So there's also going to be keywords in the text box. Keywords are going to sum up essentially what has become codified rule shorthand. But then also at other times, this is where you'll have a card's effect, if it has any. There's rarely any vanillas being printed anymore, so every card is more or less going to have some kind of effect or text box that you need to know what is in it if you want to play the card. Reading the card explains the card. So as you can see here, let's just take a look at Hope's text box real quick. There's a keyword, lifelink, but that's just essentially, that's shorthand to tell you that when this card does damage, you gain life equal to the damage that it has dealt. And then you'll have Hope's effect. So most effects will have some kind of clause as to sort of, if it's a triggered ability, what or when that ability triggers. So in this case, at the beginning of your end step, this effect happens. In most cases, they're essentially if-then statements with a little algebra thrown in, as you can see there, because there's also X values. More often than not, if you see X pop up in a card effect, there's either going to be an X value in the card's mana cost, or mana value, or like Hope here, there's going to be something in the text box that specifies what X equates to. So in this case, at the beginning of your end step, each opponent mills X cards, where X is the amount of life you've gained that turn. Seems simple enough.
So what's milling?
Milling is simply just taking the top card of your deck
milling
and putting it into the graveyard.
Hang on, let me write that down.
It's actually an alternate win condition, which we're not going to get necessarily into every type of alternate win condition, but I can at least explain this right now since we did bring up milling. If your deck no longer has any cards in it, and you try to go to draw from your deck, you lose the game. So milling, more often than not, is a strategy that has been developed simply based around winning by that win con, as opposed to winning through damage.
I won my very first Magic game ever
Okay.
because my opponent milled basically the rest of their deck on accident.
That also happens. Self-mill is also an archetype.
That's funny.
But yeah, and then you'll also see in the text box any text in italics. That's just flavor text. So that it's nice and flavorful and kind of helps give you a sense of the card, especially if it's a character just within Magic lore and not necessarily something from, let's say, a Universes Beyond set, where it is a character that has its own pre-established lore that people know outside of the game of Magic. And then the last piece of information that you specifically need to know when you're looking at a Magic the Gathering card is power and toughness. Now, this only matters and is only a text box that is often found on creature cards or cards that can essentially be turned into creatures in one way, shape, or form. Power is going to be essentially the number that creature assigns as damage in combat, and then the toughness is essentially the life of that creature. So it's essentially when creature goes under 0 toughness, for one reason or another, that creature is marked for death, and will die, essentially. Any other questions besides what is Mill so far? Okay. Or Quack, is there anything you would like to fill in?
I would just like to know, where did it go? I just like to fill out one of my favorite entries in the comprehensive rules, Rule 104.3, which just says, there are several ways to lose the game. That's all.
Magic the Gathering. Okay. Part 2. We're going to start getting into land types. First card types we're going to talk about +1 cast math magics. Not there yet. So lands are, for better and worse, the most important card type in Magic the Gathering. Lands are what generate you mana, which is required to cast the spells in your deck. More often than not, you win or lose games by whether or not you drew enough lands, or if you drew too many lands and didn't see the rest of the cards in your deck. And with that, your deck can have any number of basic lands, and those basic lands correspond to each of the 5 colors themselves. And those are, white are plains, blue is islands, black is swamps, red is mountains, and green is forests. So more often than not, whenever you see a card reference basic lands, it is going to be one of these cards, like the mountain you see on the screen right now, a basic land. There are other lands that exist, but as soon as we get out of the sort of basic lands, typically those are either just have the same basic ability as a land, where it's just tap, add one of the color it is. But they even monocolored lands can have some additional text on them, or we can start getting to multicolored lands like this dual land right here, Radiant Summit, which does have both the mountains and plains basic land type. So this can also be searched by cards that reference the same thing as mountain. But then there's also some text, typically a condition on it entering tapped or untapped. Because the fact that it can produce 2 different colors of mana, it's much more powerful than just a basic land that comes in untapped.
Okay. Okay. Also, for anybody who is curious, it's not a bit. I am actually writing.
I'm not kidding when I say there is a test at the end.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hey, remember how I said in the green room that I made dual puzzles for this?
Let's go.
Wait, so I have a question real quick. For dual lands, do they ever come up with like better things? Because I think like a mountain plain should be like a mesa.
There have been many in history.
This was just there have been many covering many sort of environments and such across the wide universe of the planes of Magic multiverse, as the planes of the Magic the Gathering lore. Is the test Urza's saga? Yes. Surprise, I'm Urza.
That would be wild.
I was the blue character the whole time.
Oh god.
Okay. Now we're going to get into the other types of permanents. The non-land permanents. So lands are considered permanent cards because when you play them, they stay on the board. Any other card that you can play, or any other spell that you play, that sticks around on the board after you cast it and after it resolves, is a permanent. It's pretty easy. They're permanents because they stay on the board. There are 4 main types of permanents. We've talked about creatures. Actually, also it's important to note, every single other type of permanent is more or less a permutation of these 4 types. So even when there are some unique ones that I have not mentioned here, yes, I'm looking at you, Battles.
Huh?
Why?
Don't worry
Those
about
are
it.
just plain Don't worry about it.
That's for
I am firing a direct shot to Wizards of the Coast through my webcam right now. But yes, first we went over creatures, so you know the parts of the cards there. The other ones we have are artifacts. So artifacts are, for the most part, going to be colorless. And you'll know a card's colors because it doesn't have colored mana pips in its cost, or in its mana value. But these typically don't have power toughness unless they're an artifact creature. Surprise, all these types of permanents can also be creatures. Including
Okay.
creatures.
Okay.
Magic the Gathering. So this is why also more often that a lot of removal will say non-land permanent, because that kind of covers the basis of this. But if a piece of removal gets much more specific about it, like if it's a piece of artifact removal, it will specify destroy target artifact or destroy all artifacts. And anything with that type or with that super type will be destroyed. Then we have enchantments. Enchantments are the same thing as artifacts, basically, but they're just flavored as magic for the most part, and will typically have some kind of colored mana associated with it.
So artifacts are always colorless? And enchantments have color associations.
Yeah, it's not an exact science, but artifacts are 90% of the time colorless. A lot of colors do have their own specific artifacts, and artifacts may have a color identity, but for the most part, it's also what stands out as the Quack, bail me out here.
Yeah, so in Magic's history, it used to be the case that all artifacts were colorless as a rule, and then Wizards of the Coast did a bunch of stupid things with that, because when something is colorless, it means that any colored deck can play it, and so they made a bunch of overpowered colorless artifacts and regretted that. So now they sometimes have colored. Another big distinction between the two is that artifacts will often have abilities that require you to tap them in order to activate, which enchantments basically never do. Enchantments are usually more about sitting on the board and saying all of your creatures have this property now, or at the start of your turn do this, but they don't tend to have tap abilities.
Yeah.
Okay.
As you can kind of see with Warleader's Call, it has what we call a sort of anthem, where it's a thing, where it's like Quack said, it's an effect that just affects all your creatures on the board. In this case, it's creatures you control get +1/+1. And then they also have a second effect where whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Warleader's Call deals 1 damage to each opponent. So that's also one of these triggered abilities again, where something happens, and it's essentially just an if-then statement. If X happens, then Y happens. Or you can do Y. And then Planeswalkers. Magic the Gathering's greatest decision ever. Smile.
I'm sensing a bit of apprehension coming from that statement.
Planeswalkers are either the greatest thing you could put in your deck or the worst thing you could put in your deck, depending on the format. And the OP ones are really OP. Okay. I'm sorry, this lesson's getting a little less objective at the moment. Yeah, so typically, Planeswalkers will come in with a number of loyalty counters on them, as you'll see in the So this is kind of where they also break from the typical sort of pattern of the anatomy of the card we went over in slide 1, in that where you'll see in place of power and toughness, you'll have a number down there in that little black sort of symbol. That is the number of loyalty counters that a Planeswalker enters in on. Now you'll see that they have several abilities on them, or there are two abilities with numbers associated with them. Had to change that sentence 3 times. These are the costs of Quintorius's two activated abilities. So you could either +1 the loyalty counter on him, and that effect happens, or you could remove 4 loyalty counters from him, and the other effect happens. A lot of things they also started doing with Planeswalkers in the last few years. Question mark on how wide that actually is. Magic has also been doing a lot of things, making Planeswalkers that can be commanders. So, because of the commander format, and that being one of the more popular sort of ways to play Magic the Gathering, they have kind of pushed. Typically, legendary creatures can be a commander in a commander deck. Planeswalkers cannot, unless they are specified, like on Quintorius here. Yeah.
Okay, so it has to have the word legendary for it to be a commander? Question mark.
Yes.
Okay. Other question. What is a loyalty counter? Like,
this
how
number.
Does that... Yes.
But that's just it. It's its own thing. It is a counter similar to how there are +1/+1 counters. But they are its own sort of entity. Other things that can increase or double counters affect loyalty counters, but they're its own resource.
So how do you accumulate loyalty counters in order to bring a Planeswalker on?
You don't need to accumulate. You pay the mana cost of the Planeswalker itself. Like it's just any other spell.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, no, like I said, the only thing that kind of breaks this is the fact that if you just... Look, there's 2 Quintorius cards. How do I know which one's the Planewalker and which one's the creature? Oh. 1, the creature says that it's a creature, and it has a power and toughness. The Planeswalker says it's a Planeswalker, and has a loyalty counter number in the corner, as opposed to its power and toughness.
Okay.
TA Quack S Liver, anything you want to add about... I'm giving you...
is that they're your friends. Thinking of loyalty as a mechanism of friendship, you basically summon a little friend, they have their own list of spells, and some spells increase your friendship with this person, and some spells that they cast decrease your friendship with this person, and if it hits 0, they leave and incidentally die.
That is also true. That is also how they are removed from the game, or removed from the field.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing about Planeswalkers is when we go to combat and someone declares attackers, they're really only declaring attackers at a player. Much the same thing like Quack was saying. Planeswalkers kind of become like a sidekick with it, and think of loyalty counters as its own health total. And because your opponent can declare attackers at your planeswalkers, whereas they can't do that to your individual creatures.
And this is just general life advice. If you actively let someone else beat up your friends, they're likely not going to stay your friends forever.
Will that be on the test?
I don't know. Anyway, if permanence wasn't enough, non-permanence now. So there's only 2 types of these, and those are sorceries and instants. The main difference you need to know about these two is that sorceries can only be cast at what is called sorcery speed. So while there is no other card being cast or in play at sort of on what we call the stack. I'm not going to explain the stack any deeper than that's just where cards go when they're cast, but not yet resolved. Sorceries can only be cast when there is nothing on the stack at the moment and you have priority. Priority is kind of just like, hey, it's my turn. I get to do the first action of a chain. Of a stack, essentially. There are also some effects on cards that say activate only as a sorcery.
Okay, hang on.
So when it...
Hang on. I think I'm going to need you to run back the sorcery explanation.
Were you not taking notes?
Listen. I just need you to run it back.
Okay,
you had me and then you lost me and I got very lost. So can you please explain it again?
Okay, so where did I lose you?
Just start from the top. Just start from the top of what a sorcery card is.
Sorcery S is for slow. That's a good thing. Yes. So sorceries are essentially slow speed spells. You can only play it when there is not something else that still needs to be resolved. You can only play it when there is nothing currently sort of on the stack or in the sort of card purgatory that is, I have cast the thing, but it is not yet resolved.
They can only be played when...
Essentially, they can only be played when you can, like, cast a creature or an artifact or a permanent spell. You can't play a sorcery in response to something.
That makes sense to me.
Cool.
That makes sense to me.
We're doing it. We just figured out that it's like showing Gabby the Final Fantasy cards and that getting her into Magic. I just needed to find the right combination of words to make this make sense.
I need you to be so nice to me. I need you to be so nice to me.
Anyway, instants. Instants are faster. Whereas sorcery is slow, instants is instant speed. These are the cards that you can play practically whenever because they are essentially cast at instant speeds. So instants are what you can play in response to people. All counter spells are going to be instants.
Okay.
Because it is more like, think of it as we are casting a spell quickly in reaction to whatever our opponent is doing. We have to remember that Magic the Gathering is essentially and this is actually the most important part that I glossed over, is that we need to pretend that we are wizards having a duel.
Okay.
That's the reason why all the cards in the game besides lands are called spells, because we are always casting spells either to summon something invoke something or create something, or to cast, in this case, just magic at the other person. So thinking in a wizard duel, sorcery is the big thing we need to charge up and then throw. Instance is like we could just throw up a wall up or something. Like, actually, Quack, what are you on in the chat right now?
Just instants aren't sorceries with flash. A sorcery with flash would be materially different from an instant. But to actually add value to this, I will say, critically, instant is the only card type that by default is a thing you can do during your opponent's turn. Every other card type previously discussed, by default, you can only play during your own turn, but some instants expressly derive benefit from being cast while your opponent is trying to do other things, like, as Birch mentioned, cast their own spells, but also, like, attack with their creatures or something else.
Yeah. Speaking of which, because I think that's the next slide. Keywords! Hi, yes. A keyword a keyword ability is a word or a combination of words that represents a piece of rules text describing an ability present on a card. It is the replacement text of an exact line of text. According to the comprehensive rules as of November 2025, there are approximately 188 keywords defined in the rulebook.
That's too many. That's too many. That's
Most
so
of them
many.
don't matter.
All the way from death touch to web slinging.
Surely we can come up with a keyword that's A, B, or C. Come on, Wizards of the Coast.
No, see, the fun fact is that they're not in alphabetical order. They're in order of creation. They're in order of creation and need for definition. Death Touch being one of the earliest abilities in Magic the Gathering required that definition. Web slinging being the most recent one because they did not introduce any keywords in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set somehow. Or Sneak, I think is...
new ones in the new set?
They're introducing a lot in the new set.
But we're not talking about that.
We're not talking about any of those because, for the most part, most keywords, unless they become evergreen, are more or less kept to just the set that they are sort of printed in, which is why Quack said a lot of them do not matter, because in most cases, if you run into a card from... Quack, give me a set from like 10, 15 years ago.
Oh gosh. I don't want to think about what 10, 15 years ago was, because that was probably when I was actively playing Scars of Mirrodin.
I
What did Scars
targeted. I target the target spell at you. Scars of Mirrodin. You're not going to need to worry about if you see a card from that set in the wild at this point. The person who's playing it knows what it is. So feel free to ask, because they're also just going to, I think, autopilot on the assumption that you know. They're either going to autopilot on the assumption that you know what that keyword is, or know that people constantly ask them what that keyword is, because it is so far removed from contemporary Magic the Gathering at this point, that most people playing the game probably don't know what that is. I can't even name a keyword from that set if there was one.
Battle Cry! No, wait, that was an ability word. I mean, infect, but that actually still comes up.
Oh god. Don't. But yes, out of all 188 currently in the set so far, or in the history of Magic the Gathering, that are defined by the rulebook, some of them can only be found on instant sorceries, others only on creatures. More often than not, because the abilities will often involve being on a permanent versus a non-permanent. There's a keyword from the new set that is really only found on these big sorceries because that's kind of the flavor of it. Versus there are some keywords from the new set, like Increment, that cares about putting 1/1/1 counters on creatures. Those cards are typically going to be found on just the creatures in the set. but there are some that kind of overlap that you will see on both. But yes, also going through the nuances of every single keyword and what kind of cards they can be found upon is like 3 of these down the road. But some of the notable ones that you will know, skipping ahead to the end of the notable keywords at the end here, Flash, that's kind of what Quack mentioned. Typically, if a permanent Flash is typically found just on permanents because they're the only ones that need to like be clarified that they can be played at instant speeds. Some sorceries have them. I guess I don't know any off the top of my head, but that's Quack is.
There aren't actually sorceries with Flash. You can give sorceries Flash, but
you can give sorceries Flash. You can give a lot of things. Also give keywords. That's fun. But yes, in most cases, Flash is going to be one of these keywords that's only on permanents. So any of the permanents that we have mentioned, typically not planeswalkers, but there are some that do have Flash. But Flash just means I can play this thing at instant speed. So anytime I can play an instant, I can play a card with Flash. That is essentially what Flash means, is that this card can be played at instant speed. You know what flying does.
Yes, I do know what flying does.
Cool. That's the self-explanatory one. There are also a lot of keywords that are kind of just flying in a different coat of paint. Because flying essentially is like, I can only be blocked by other things with said keyword, or with this other specific condition. Flying equals horsemanship. Yes, Holly. Everything is kicker. Almost every keyword is kicker, or every keyword is horsemanship. But this is also illustrates my point of God, I flipped it around. Of flying, of a lot of keywords just being flying in different flavors.
Okay, just flying in a different font.
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Lifelink, we went over that with Hope. It is, this can be on both instants and sorceries, or on non-permanents and permanents, that can do damage. So typically you're not going to find it on, like, enchantments, because unless most enchantments aren't dealing direct damage, whereas creatures and damaging spells can. Kicker, like I said, is typically, you will hear the joke, everything is kicker, but that's quite literally because there's a lot of keywords that all have to deal with casting something at an alternative cost. So much like how flying is just like, a lot of keywords are just flying in different fonts. Okay. Kicker is also, a lot of mechanics are kicker in different fonts. Because it's typically in regards to kicker specifically adds an extra thing to the mana cost of the card you're trying to cast. This could either be more mana, or this could be even things like discard a card or sacrifice a creature. And kicked spells specifically have text that say, if this card was kicked, do another thing. But once again, I cannot stress enough, most effects in Magic the Gathering are just if-then statements.
I'm writing that down.
People think it's so complicated, but it's just, and even when you cast a spell, you are doing, if I have paid the mana value for this card and said that I am casting this card is being cast. So it's not even effects, it's just yes. You said notes check.
No, I'm just flashing my notes for the audience. Like, look, I'm writing. I swear. Continue.
Okay, trample. It's overkill for the most part. So trample just means when this creature assigns damage, or if this creature does more damage to its blocking creatures than... If it does more damage than the total amount of toughness on the creatures blocking it, excess damage is dealt to the opponent it was attacking.
Okay.
Haste. This just means that when the creature enters or when the card enters, if it's or mostly creatures, when it enters, it doesn't suffer from summoning sickness, so it could either attack or just generally be tapped the turn it comes in.
Okay.
Death Touch. Like I said, Death Touch has been around.
I'm familiar with Death Touch. I hate Death Touch.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, if you somehow don't, Death Touch is just if this creature deals damage to another creature, it doesn't matter how much damage the Death Touching creature did to the blocker or did to the attacker, both creatures die. Or the creature that the Death Touching creature has damaged will die. And then finally, out of these sort of need-to-know ones, because they either are a lot of buckets or just kind of their own thing and will come up, like Hexproof just means that this creature cannot be targeted by spells your opponents control. And this means all spells, any targeting effects, this creature is unaffected by.
Okay.
Any questions or other comments about keywords from the peanut gallery?
I'm scanning the chat. I'm scanning the chat. No, I think we're good.
Okay. Peanut gallery meant you and just two, Quack.
Oh, then in that case, to our lovely host's earlier point, I don't think there is a keyword that starts with the letter Z. For A, we've got Aura Swap, which is a keyword that was printed on one card, I think. But the last keyword alphabetically I can think of is Wither, and maybe chat will have me if there's something with X, Y, or Z that's been printed.
Chat, quick, think of the funniest Y word that you can.
Yeet.
Yeet, new mechanic.
Hey, Gavin,
we got
Gavin, where are you at? Get him on the phone.
Gavin, calling you up. Okay, color identity. This is, for the most part, going to be something that you'll really need to only worry about in Commander when you play, if you play that at all. But a card's color identity is the combination of all colors in its mana cost and any mana symbols in the rules text. Cards can also, if it has text in its text box that change color, it can also determine color identity by that. There's a lot of cards that say at the beginning of the game, pick what color this is. It is that color. That's what I mean, but those are like, in the grand scheme of things, so far, few and in between. But how this will kind of come up in more often cases is that if a card specifies a specific color, i.e. destroy white creature or destroy, let's just go with destroy white creature. It will only care if a white pip is in the mana cost of the card.
Okay.
So in this case, Hope is a white and blue creature. Wandering Minstrel is a green and blue creature. But what actually differs in their color identity is that Hope is just blue-white across the board. So if you're making a deck where Hope is your commander, you can only put blue or white cards in the deck. Whereas the Wandering Minstrel, if you look down at his text box, has a activated mana ability that has one of every pip, so full Wooburg of colors. You'll see the acronym Wooburg a lot. That is just shorthand for the 5 colors.
Okay.
That is white, or W for white, U for blue, B for black, R for red, G for green.
Okay.
Before you ask, no, I do not know why they went with U specifically for blue and not any other sort of thing. I don't know.
I could offer an idea.
If you're going to say it's because U is the second letter of blue, or third.
So that would be wrong.
Hey, anyway, this has been fun. I gotta go. Lesson's over. Oh, cool, an ad started.
Oh my god.
But does color identity make sense?
It does make sense. I have a question.
Yes.
So, I have seen some cards have like in their mana corner. What the fuck was that? I'm sorry for swearing. What the heck was that called?
The mana value.
The mana value. So I've seen some cards in the mana value have like a dual thing. It's
when it has
like a
the
half
split
and
in
half symbol. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hybrid mana pip. So what that means is that you can spend. So when casting the spell, you could spend either color of those specific two manas to cast this spell. So let's say in this case, Hope had that on the white where it was a split blue white. That would mean I could then cast Hope for either a white and a blue or two blue.
Okay.
That's all what a hybrid mana value is. Often you will probably also see that on some cards where it's split half a color, half just a number. That essentially means that you could either spend that specific color, or if it's like 2 mana, you'll have to spend 2 mana to replace that 1 pip of colored mana. But those are on few cards. But I feel almost in a sense to do due diligence to not just say absolutes in this case, because there is 30 odd years of Magic the Gathering in existence. And I do not have a comprehensive knowledge of all 30 years, and cannot say for certain if certain cases come up a few times or quite a lot.
That's fair. That's really fair.
Heck, even I was like, are there sorceries with flash on them? I don't.
No. Surely not.
Scryfall.
Scryfall's gonna list all the flashback sorceries. Hold on.
Oh, that's right.
Go on to the next slide.
Okay, we are on to, so you know what a Magic the Gathering card is now, and the cards for it. It's time to shuffle up and play. I'm not going to get into specific deck building, because that does vary a lot by the format you play. Certain formats have ban lists that determine what cards can or cannot be played in the format, as well as just cards that are card legality depending on the format. But in most cases, in most 60 card constructed formats, I have to specify 60 card because that is very different from Commander that is technically 100 card constructed.
Yes.
In 60 card constructed formats, you could have up to 4 copies of any named card in your deck, and as many copies of any basic land that you want in your deck. If you want your deck to be one, in a 60 card format, to be one named card and 59 lands, you can do that. Should you?
Probably not, if I had to wager a guess.
But then this differs from formats like Commander, where they're a 100-card constructed singleton, which means you can only have one copy of each named card in your deck, but the same rule about basic lands applies.
Okay.
Now, no matter what your format is, what you're going to do at the start of every Magic the Gathering game is shuffle your deck and draw your first hand of 7 cards. Of course, then also determine who goes first, and which that essentially just determines who's on the play and who's on the draw. Typically,
how do you determine who goes first?
Rolling dice, flipping coins.
Mm-hmm.
Flipping coins if it's two person. Rolling dice more often than not or really, if it's not a tournament, really any way you want to determine who goes first goes. If you really want to just get silly with it, if you want to determine who goes,
rules whoever pooped less.
Yeah, if you want to make it a house rule to determine play order in your Commander games at home as whoever pooped last or whoever did X thing last, go right on ahead, you funky little weirdos. But yes, so you'll shuffle up. Once you turn player, draw your hands of 7, look at it, and then typically that's when you'll have a mulligan.
So a hand has to be 7 cards?
You're starting. The first hand you draw has to be 7 cards. Going into your starting hand, because this is now where we get into mulligans. Mulligans is a rule that essentially, because of the nature of the game, in the fact that you also do need to, draw lands to make sure you can play the game. There are mulligans. What this essentially is you look at your starting hand and go, hey, I don't think this is a good starting hand. I have no lands, or I have a lot of lands to the point where I can't play the game one way or another, because either I'll just be missing land drops, or I am so mana flooded that I don't have spells to play. So you can take what is a mulligan, which once again, going into any sort of non-commander format, I'll say, because this now includes limited or sealed play, you'll put that hand of 7 back, shuffle your deck, draw a new or you'll put it's bottom of the library, right? Actually, now that I think about it. Okay, it's see, I mostly play Magic the Gathering on Magic the Gathering Arena, so the mulligan's just kind of done for me.
Wait, sorry. The hand gets shuffled back, but when you are resolving the mulligan, the cards you put back go on the bottom.
Okay, I did not. I just wanted to make sure I was getting that right.
Yeah.
Because I said shuffle, and I was like, shuffle doesn't sound right. No, you'll put the initial hand that you drew back, shuffle, draw a new hand of 7, but then in non-commander formats, for every mulligan you take, essentially every hand you draw after that starting hand, you'll have to put an increasing number of cards back in the deck. So you can take any number of mulligans that you want before you end up with only 1 card in hand as your starting hand.
Okay.
So your first mulligan, you'll have to put 1 card back on the bottom of the library and have a starting hand of 6. So on and so forth. 5, 4, 3, 2. Yeah, draw 7, bottom 1 per mulligan. Exactly.
Okay, hang on. I'm writing this down because this was something I specifically asked about, because I did not understand how mulligans worked. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then from that, what we do now is we play the game. So this is the turn structure. This is turns, and learning how turns work is not that scary when you just look that it's just when it's just a list of steps. It's just an order of operations, essentially. You've probably heard the phrase untap, upkeep, draw. That's how every turn of Magic the Gathering starts. You can see my little asterisk down there, Quack, if you wanted that. I threw strays in at Quack, knowing that she was going.
Let Quack go off about that is incredible. No, nothing at this time. I'm being good. I want it in the papers how much I'm behaving right now.
You were surprisingly behaving a lot better than I expected. But yes, turns typically shown as shown. When you begin your turn, you'll untap any tapped things on your board unless otherwise specified. Upkeep, that is just a phase where upkeep effects happen, if anything. This is also where if upkeep effects do trigger, they essentially create a stack and then priority exists. And then once the upkeep resolves, then you draw your card for a turn. Your two main phases are essentially the same thing. The only thing that differs about them is one is before combat, the other is after combat. Only during a main phase can you play a land, unless an effect triggers to play a land at any point in time. Like say an instant spell puts a land on the battlefield or something. And you can cast spells. It says here, like I said, it can be cast at any time. So this is where you'll cast your creatures, cast your artifacts, cast your enchantments, planeswalkers, any permanents or any sorceries, essentially.
So that goes before combat?
Yes, there is one before combat, and then there is one post-combat. But that is typically... So you enter the combat phase whenever you declare that you go to combat, and then that, because we're changing phases, that's its own trigger, but then within combat, there's a series of steps.
Hang on. Quack is memeing in chat.
So... No. Don't pay no attention.
We're not talking. This is also why I'm prefacing that, like, there are things that will give you more phases or repeat phases depending on the effect. There's even cards that can give you full extra turns.
But we're not going to worry about that.
We're not going to worry about that. Extra, because essentially what an extra turn card does is just when you technically pass the turn to your opponent, you just start a new untap step. That's it. Like, you remain the turn player and we just go back to step one of the turn. Same thing with literally any card that says there's another combat phase or there's another main phase after this one. We just go back. When that card resolves, at the next time we should be ticking over to the next step or the next phase. We go back to the top of the order of operations and repeat.
Okay. So
effects are just if-then statements. Turns are just order of operations.
So riddle me this. Why are there two main phases?
Magic as intended. No, this is mostly just because to make combat its own thing, but also but also to open up design space for the most part. In this case, they can design cards that either only do something your pre-combat main phase or your post-combat main phase, i.e. They can design cards that care about whether or not you attacked that turn. Stuff like that. Because attacking is optional. Write that down, underline it. In most cases, attacking is optional. You do not need to attack every single turn.
Okay. Hang on. Combat.
We'll get into combat in a second. You can save any combat specific notes for that. But when it comes to turn structure, it is just these steps in this order, and anything that tells you that you do another one of X phase, we just tick back to that next phase, to that previous step.
Okay.
And then the end step is just, whereas at the beginning of your turn, untap was kind of the most important kind of like stationary thing, or stationary step in the plan. The end step is where any damage from your creatures are healed unless an effect specifies otherwise. Like if something says that like damage remains on creatures, all creatures are going to be healed from whatever combat damage they took, or whatever damage they took from instants and sorceries earlier, or whatever damage they took in general. And then you pass. Ta-da! And you've now played a turn of Magic the Gathering. For example, second main phase gives you the ability to play creatures after combat to keep them safe from things that might happen during combat. Exactly. Because a lot of effects trigger or happen during combat, or people can cast big things that may have collateral damage in combat. Stuff like that. Speaking of combat, combat starts when the turn player declares I should say, it's when they declared that we move to combat. But the actual act of combat between creatures starts with the actual sort of first step, so to speak, of the combat phase is when the turn player declares attackers. And then and how you declare attackers is just say, hey, I'm sending this creature at this player, or I'm sending this creature at this planeswalker. And once you've finished declaring, hey, these are all the creatures that are attacking, and this is where they're going, then it moves over to whoever's things are being attacked, whether it's their life total or their board, gets to declare blockers. Once again, instants can be played at any time. So this is also where instants, cards of flash, and permanents on the board with applicable effects. So things that can be activated at instant speed can be played and activated whenever a player has priority to the phase, unless otherwise specified. For the most part, this is where you'll see things like combat tricks being played. So cards that either pump your creatures or do damage or affect the power and toughness of your opponent's creatures. This is where those sort of spells will more than likely be played as a way to sort of affect the tide of combat, as well as what creatures survive combat. An important thing to note here, when we go back to keywords, there are two keywords that specifically and technically add steps to this whole thing. So when blockers are declared, that is then when we will then move into the damage calculation. So once all the math on the board is more or less settled of this creature's attacking this creature or this creature's going through, that's when we will calculate damage. Before that, if there's a creature with first strike or double strike in combat, what we'll actually do is we'll assign first strike damage. Because first strike is a keyword that basically says, I do my combat damage before whatever creature is blocking me or whatever creature I am in combat with deals damage to me. Double strike works the same, but whereas first strike only assigns it that one time, double strike assigns it twice. Which is why first strike damage is its own sort of separate step in damage calculation.
Okay.
And once all the previous steps are completed, damage is calculated, and any creatures who end combat under at or below 0 toughness, unless otherwise specified, will die. I feel like I need a counter for every single time I've said unless otherwise specified at this point. Because I feel like that's just, I've been saying that a lot. I am drinking water. If anyone else wants to chime in with something real quick.
Yeah, I mean, that's they literally call it the golden rule of Magic, is Magic has all of these rules and all of these, like, you know, turn order and keywords and stuff like that, but the most important rule of Magic is if a card says to do something and the rules imply otherwise, the card wins. That's, like, the core thing to understand. And so a lot of this is like, unless a card says do something different, is baked into the game, because the cards always take precedence over the rules.
Yep. Because the cards are essentially impacting the rules.
Okay.
We have a request to cite that from the CR.
101.1.
Oh, it really is just like right there, huh? Like number
Yep.
one.
Yeah, not quite the first rule in the thing, but like on the second page of the 308-page document.
No, you see, the first rule of Magic the Gathering is you don't talk about Magic the Gathering.
That's true. The first rule of Magic the Gathering in my heart is Rule 104.3a, which is a player can concede the game at any time.
Yep. Scoop. No, the real first rule is Rule 0, and that's just have a conversation with the people that you're playing with about what game of Magic the Gathering experience do you want to have. No, so now that we've kind of gone through basic anatomy, kind of as light of a sprinkling of rules that we can do without getting into the real theoretical niche case stuff. Now it's time to kind of get into theory of how to play a card game in general. But specifically also how each of the 5 colors in Magic the Gathering sort of play and work. And with this, we're going to need to sort of first take a lesson into how do TCG decks sort of work in the first place. And this is kind of fundamentals and stuff that can be applied to quite literally any other game for the most part. Like, Pokemon TCG has control decks. It also has mill decks. Like, it has... That's beside the point, but the sort of 3
I
core
once ran a
archetype...
mill deck for Pokemon TCG. I went to a pre-release once, and I absolutely milled the hell out of this one guy. It was the only game I won. It was interesting. Sorry, that's anecdotal.
Mill in Magic the Gathering works the exact same way. It's almost like these other card games kind of got the mill alt win con from this game. But that's the ultimate win con. So in terms of how your deck wants to win, just from a sort of not necessarily in-game meta perspective, but from a zoomed out meta perspective, there are sort of 3 key. I almost want to even say like Jungian archetypes of TCG deck. Of like this is just kind of like. This can be mapped to any metagame in any TCG anywhere. And those 3 decks are aggro, combo, and control. And they all kind of play in this rock, paper, scissors versus each other. Because they're all trying to win through different sort of play styles. Aggro is trying to win by overwhelming your opponent with pressure very early, very quickly in the game. In Magic the Gathering, aggro decks are going to be a lot of decks that swarm the board early or get fast, hasty creatures out with low mana values and just build a board quickly and overwhelmingly and are attacking every turn and just really applying that pressure. Or they're going to be burn decks where they're just casting a lot of spells and just throwing a lot of damage to your opponent's face very quickly and often, to the point where like the life total difference between you and your opponent can grow very quickly. That's number one. Number two, which we'll talk about now because we're kind of going in rock, paper, scissors order, is combo. Combo is essentially any deck that kind of tries to win on the spot within a single turn of play. Granted, combo decks sort of try to accrue advantage over time or try to build up pieces of a combo, depending on what it is. But in most cases, they're trying to sort of play 2 or 3 different cards in succession, and if they are able to resolve those 3 cards, you may as well just their last card may as well just say you win the game. In most cases, it does. And the reason why aggro decks beat combo decks is because combo decks take a long time to set up, and they're typically dedicated to just doing their thing. So they typically don't have responses for that overwhelming pressure that aggro decks can produce very early on in the game. Now, the third one we'll get to is control. Control plays much like how there's sort of different dimensions to aggro. There's different dimensions to control. But the sort of core basis of control is that you are trying to limit what your opponents can do, either in being removal heavy, in that you're removing pieces from your opponent's board, whether it's creatures, other game pieces, in the case of Magic the Gathering, land destruction, everyone's favorite mechanic, land destruction. This game is over 30 years old. There's a lot of misses in it. You just have to deal with it. If anyone plays land control against you, just scoop and move on. They're not worth interacting with. Mass land removal, that is. Am I missing anything so far, Quack?
No, other than you're being mean to me for running mass land denial.
Target effect.
Yeah.
I'm not even trying to throw strays anymore. This is just happening naturally. So yes, and then to sort of round out this rock paper scissors, combo beats control, because more often than not, combo's not going to have anything that's directly sort of like, unless control plays something that's like you can only cast 1 spell in a turn. Or something that's specifically targeted at the combo deck, combo is going to win because they're just, at a certain point, control doesn't have the pressure to stop the combo from going off. Or combo typically had...
So combo beats control, control beats aggro, aggro beats combo.
Yes, because control is really good at equalizing board states, or equalizing the advantage between 2 players. Or 2 or several players.
Okay.
Now, there's also kind of 2 sort of philosophies that kind of branch out from these in certain ways. But this is now getting really into the theoretical of it all, of this sort of card game metagaming, and there's sort of 2 other strategies in sort of like mid-range and tempo. Tempo is kind of often referred to as like aggro control, in that you're doing things to sort of interrupt your opponent's game plan more often than not, but you're also still kind of developing your own pressure and such, either through creatures or just through the going 1-for-1 with your opponent's stuff, whether it's with removal or and such, that you're essentially keeping parity even, as if you were playing just a much more lockdowny or much more controlling deck, but you're not necessarily going full. You're not going all in on the strategy of, I'm just trying to make sure my opponent doesn't have any fun. And then mid-range is kind of the sort of, I like to think of it, as this diagram kind of shows, in the middle of it all. It's not necessarily any one of these, where it's just it's kind of taking a little bit of all 3, where it's you're developing your board, like you know you have, like in Magic the Gathering, you know you have a mana curve. You can curve out and develop a board fairly early and like often, and like apply some pressure, but you're not necessarily trying to like swing out every turn, or like your deck doesn't lose because it didn't get 2 damage in on turn 2 and ran out of steam as the game went on. Mid-range kind of plays in this where it's like it can be a little aggressive, it can also be not aggressive, and it can kind of play on its heels, or it kind of play for the long game, stuff like that.
Okay.
This is all important because I'm going to throw out these terms in terms of ideas of how the different colors play. How are we doing on time, by the way?
We're at 108, 109?
Oh, we might not actually. We took a lot longer than I thought we were going to. This might just be the presentation. I was not expecting to explain them. You know what? This presentation is gonna be a lot shorter in my head. Okay, I'm getting where the beer gets to the gameplay too. Okay. Okay, so each of the 5 colors in Magic the Gathering come with their own flavor and philosophies, but gameplay-wise, they each have their own distinct things that they each do better than the other colors, but there is some overlap in how they play, depending on the card, essentially. This is like the last thing in the presentation, anyway, before the quiz. The quiz is real. So White. White has the philosophy of peace through structure. It also puts a lot of value in the collective and focusing on sort of strength in numbers style things. So in a lot of cases, White is going to have a lot of your go wide strategies, so playing a lot of small things, but going wide to do so. They also play a lot of small creatures and weenies, which that will also sort of...
Why are they called weenies?
Because they're small. They're small.
They're small? Okay.
They're small and kind of focus on growing bigger. Yoshimaru Everfaithful here is essentially is a weenie. Despite having an effect that grows bigger, starts out as a 1/1, a 1-mana 1/1, and grows from there. White also has a lot of rule setting and taxing, so they kind of also play to a control style sometimes, in sort of locking down what your opponent cannot do. Some notable creature types in White are humans, because White often kind of gets labeled as like the vanilla of it all. Humans, cats, angels, typically non-monstrous things, or White. But they can either kind of play to a mid-rangey or a control. They kind of lean mid-rangey or control more often than not, because they're not trying to do aggressive things or combo. But that's everything can be combo ultimately. Blue. Blue seeks perfection throughout figuring what it can achieve through the right education, experience, and tools. Philosophy of perfection through knowledge. A lot of notable mechanics and playstyles in blue. This is where we start to get a little combo-y. Card draw, combo-y, and control. Like somewhere in that line across, like along that sort of line. Card draw, counter spells, clones, bounce backs, etc. Doing a lot of little things to sort of impact what your opponent is doing. Notable creatures include merfolk, wizards, artifact creatures, etc. Black. Black has the philosophy of power through opportunity.
You're going too fast! Hang on!
I'm sorry, my voice is honestly starting to give out a little bit.
Hang on. Can you go back to the blue slide? That's red. Thank you.
No, this is why red. But yeah, so counter magic. That's kind of card draw and counter magic. those are like the two big things with blue. So in a lot of cases, you'll see blue decks or decks with blue in it draw a lot of cards, and because they're drawing a lot of cards to draw into their counter spells to then stop your opponent from doing things.
Okay, so blue is you said that this is combo
control oriented, like somewhere
combo
around
control.
there. Blue also likes to play into like the sort of idea with tempo sometimes, where you're doing a lot of things where you're just kind of like just getting incremental value, but you're more or less keeping things even.
Okay.
Okay. Are we good with blue?
I'm good with blue. Thank you.
Black. Like I said, power through opportunity. Black is going to focus a lot on removal and kill spells, self-sacrificing, so sacrificing your own creatures, or even your own health total as sort of costs or resources to get things in return. They believe black is typically the philosophy of, like, the ends justify the means. But since they also play around the graveyard a lot, you're also going to see a lot of reanimation effects, as well as other things to get things in the graveyard, like discard and hand destruction. Tiny Bones being an example of a big payoff for making your opponents discard cards. A lot of noble creature types in black are zombies, demons, vampires, a lot of undead, dark things, etc. This is where your goths hang out.
And what kind of playstyle would you say? Combo, control, aggro?
Black can kind of play somewhere between combo and mid-range, but it could also play a little aggressive, especially because black also tends to have a lot of big creatures for low mana cost, but have some kind of drawback to them. I.e., you could play this big 6/6 for like 3 mana, but at the beginning of your upkeep every turn, you can you have to sacrifice something on your board. Stuff like that.
Got it.
Okay. Red. Red, freedom of all. Red is going to be your bread and butter of aggro. It can play in other styles, especially when paired with other colors, but for the most part, red is going to be your sort of aggressive things, and this is why red is often a challenging color for people to pick up, because it's so multifaceted, but it does play aggressive more often than not. It's freedom through action. It's you're trying to do things a lot. You are taking initiative. So this is why in red you'll see a lot of direct damage / burn effects, artifact and land destruction as ways to sort of interrupt your opponent from doing things. Aggressive creatures, so things with haste, things that are big with trample, that also have haste. But red, you're also going to see randomness come into play. For the most part, if there's any cards that care about flipping coins or rolling dice or doing any sort of random effect, those will also be typically be in red.
Okay.
Some of the noble creature types in red are dragons. Red is also going to be your big stupid dragons type of a deal, as well as goblins, as you can see with Krenko here. Krenko is the #1 mono red commander on EDH Rec. Like this is like when people make mono red decks, this is the guy they go to more often than not. And then Ragavan is another one of these sort of very small cards that like can play fast and aggressively, and you want to be proactive in using.
Okay.
Green is quite the opposite of red in that it is probably the easiest color to understand besides white off the cuff. Because green is just more often than not what it says on the tin. And does other effects like that. Green is also going to have a lot of ramp and landfall because it's nature. It's trying to draw, like, it's ramping into these big, massive creatures. So, like on loot, you'll see you may play it. He has the fact you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Green loves to play lands and really get their mana value and count up quickly and fast. And then some notable creature types in green are beasts, dinosaurs, elves, and squirrels.
And so this is aggro control, you would say?
Green can kind of feel more mid-rangey than anything. Okay. Green is kind of that perfect balance point that I'd say mid-range, at least in Magic, kind of hinges on.
Okay.
Okay. Quiz time! Don't worry, it's five questions. Question number 1. What are the 5 most important pieces of information on Magic the Gathering card?
Oh no!
The instant regret.
Wait. Power toughness.
Yes.
The mana thing in the corner which name escapes me.
The mana cost.
The mana cost. The card type.
The type line.
The text box.
There's
one more.
One more piece of information, and it is piece number 1.
Card name?
Yep. Card name, mana value, type line, text box, and power and toughness. Those are the 5 most important pieces. Anyway, that's a sign for how the rest of this segment's going to go. Question number 2. What is the basic land type associated with each of the 5 colors?
I wrote this one down. Okay, so white is plains, blue is islands, black is swamps, red is mountains, and green is forests.
Yep. White plains, blue island, you know the rest. Price, salt score on EH reg, flavor text, number of printings, and if the art is a woman looking to the left, final answer. Quack. Question number 3. Name the 4 main types of non-land permanents.
Creatures, artifacts, enchantments, and planeswalkers.
Correct. Question number 4. What keywords add additional steps to the combat phase?
Oh shit. Oh no. Hang on. Wait. Oh no. What keywords add additional steps to the combat phase? I wrote this down somewhere. Wait. First strike and double strike?
Correct. You are 4 for 4 so far. Last question. What playstyle attempts to win games quickly by applying pressure to the opponent early?
Aggro!
And that's it for the basics. Any other final questions before we go to break?
I think we have covered everything.
Cool. We're good to go to break. We'll be back. Jess, I'll let you throw us out. Or just...
We'll be right back with Gabby.
Alright, we're back. Hello, everybody. Hi.
Hello, hi. It's magic time. This is gonna be a little bit more freeform and bantery, but Gabby's going to do one match of Sparky's challenge. You'll see. So
for context, Sparky's challenge is, I think, the third part of a 3-part tutorial in Magic the Gathering Arena, which I recommend if you want to, like, get a feel for what the heck it is what it's like to play Magic the Gathering. It's not perfect, but you get, like, a vibe for it. So we're gonna play one. Okay.
Take your pick. I genuinely recommend white green or red green.
You know, I had the feeling you were going to say that.
You're
You
never
have essentially-
going to guess what my rec is.
Quack is going to try to get you to play Demir, and we're not going to do that tonight.
I'm assuming, because you just said a noun at me that I don't understand. I'm assuming that's the
Demir is
blue
just the
black.
shorthand for blue-black. Yes.
Okay.
Demir is very, very soft.
Dang. We're gonna do cats. I feel like we have to do cats. Submit deck.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Just click play and let's get into this.
Good luck.
Now I'm going to be. This is a driver's ed lesson,
Oh
essentially.
God.
You can ask for my intervention, but for the most part, the decisions are all you.
Okay. And now we start with figuring out whether or not I want to mulligan. I think I want to keep this, honestly.
Keep it.
This looks like a good spot for some practice.
Thank you, Sparky. Okay, I'm gonna... Oh, that's this land intercept where I'm just gonna play a plains, I think. That's a good spot to start. Cool.
You're doing great. Enjoy the Teenage Mutant
music
Ninja
is
Turtles
really good.
ambiance. That's a lot of shamans.
That is a lot of shamans. I don't love this. I'll play a forest, and then... Yes?
Yes, Good Fortune Unicorn is your best play here because it's not only on curve, but you want to develop that because of its effect.
Okay. That makes sense. In we go.
I would not attack with this.
I was gonna say, I don't think I want to attack.
You can... I'd block one of the shamans with the...
With the unicorn?
With the cat. With the
With the
cat.
cat.
No, you want it... So... Less when we get to combat, because I have given you this one before, but for those who don't know, there are creatures that are sort of combat focused or fodder, and then creatures that are value. Good Fortune Unicorn is a value piece in this case, because we want it on the board for any creatures we play after it. Do you? Yes,
Huh?
you do have the marshal. Okay. I was just making sure you had a creature to play.
Yeah, no, I have 2 creatures that I can play right now. I'm gonna play... Come on. Can I play the forest, please? That would be neat.
Well, actually, you have a creature, an enchantment, and a sword. And
And a source.
I think 2 sorceries.
This is an enchantment. Okay.
Well, I mean,
Enchantment?
claws out, but I was talking about your whole hand. But yes, I would just play the marshal. Because now you have something that's big enough to block the shaman next turn.
Okay.
And you're not going to get the 2 in with the unicorn because the O5 is just going to block it.
Alright, so no attacks.
No attacks.
No attacks.
Hover over Angelic Destiny for me again. Okay. What I would probably do is I would just play Angelic Destiny on the unicorn.
Okay.
And then just start swinging.
Okay. I should probably play a land.
Yes. But you can play a tap land first because we're only going to play something that's 4 mana. And that's going to be our entire turn. It's not Sparky emoting us.
Wow, the BM from the bots.
But yes, you can play a tap land this turn.
Okay, and Angelic Destiny on the unicorn.
Yep. And now both of our creatures have flying.
Which
Unicorn
means
even
that...
has first strike, which means our opponent can't block either of these creatures.
Okay, so I'm just
So
gonna
this
swing.
this is 9 damage that you can just get to the face freely. And that's first strike damage. Sparky making noises. They continue to play
his
things
best.
that can't block. At this point, they're also even swinging with the O5. At this point, we're racing because they can't. They have shown no answer to our creatures. You can. I would just play a land to go. Maybe play the lion and then go to combat.
Okay.
And swing again for 9. We have our opponent on what's called a 2-turn clock.
Okay. That was a...
Whoa! That's going to leave a mark.
Thanks,
That's
Sparky.
gonna leave a mark. That's yeah, Sparky.
You Marvel dialogue.
Affinity for... Oh, interesting.
Oh,
okay.
we had lethal in hand.
We did! I think we did! It's fine.
It's fine. Don't play the claws out yet. You don't need to.
Okay, resolve.
Let that resolve. They're going to swing at you for 6 damage here. But we do win on the crackback.
Okay. Why are you swinging with the O5? That doesn't make any sense.
Because it's a computer. It sees untapped creature that can't be tapped for anything else and just attacks with it. The fact that it just does a little, like, just dinks off you.
Okay.
It's about sending a message.
Okay.
I guess
just
so.
pass your turn. And now you can just attack, because even if they block the Drake, as long as one of these creatures connects, you win.
Swing!
I was even going to like get fancy with it, where we could take a game action to remove the Drake before swinging. But that's just bullying a computer at this point and unnecessary. See? You did it! You won a game of Magic the Gathering!
Oh my god, yay!
We did it, Patrick!
Did
We
it.
saved the city!
It's just that easy.
It's...
All right, your round 2 opponent is going to be me on Lantern Control. Shuffle on.
Oh god!
While you get your cards ready, y'all wanna we'll handle that off stream. Y'all wanna do your sign offs and let the people know where they
Yeah.
can find y'all.
Let's not take up too much more of your evening. I hope you all enjoyed this. I've been Professor Birch.
And I've been blackheartwings. You go first.
You could find me anywhere on the internet at Professor Birch, and if you can't find me on a specific side of that, you can't find me there. So good luck trying. Catch me if you can. But yeah, you'll often probably see me make Magic the Gathering content. Typically, I don't know if this is going to be my niche. I don't want it to necessarily be. I contain multitudes. Anyway, who knows if there's going to be a part 2 to this. Gabby.
Hi. I'm Blackheartwings. You can find me here, twitch.tv/blackheartwings. You can find me on Blue Sky. Also, blackheartwings.bsky, whatever the heck the ending is. But also, if you are Asian and you are watching this, hi, hello. If you play video games fast in any capacity, you should submit to Games Done Quick's Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month event. I am the one who is organizing it. I will not be hosting, but I am putting the legwork behind it. I would love to see your submissions. I would love to see more Asian American Pacific Islander people in speedrunning, like myself. For people who don't know, hi, I'm South Asian. My dad is Pakistani. And so that is like a part of my identity that I would love to uplift. And I would love to see some more submissions. So you can check that out. Check out GDQ's Blue Sky. They have the submissions there. But yeah, if you're Asian and you play games fast, please submit. That would be awesome. And that is it for me. Thank you all so much for having me. Quack, where can the good people find you?
You can find me around the internet, usually with the name Quacksilver. The untapped symbol is Q, and there is a rule in the comprehensive rules about using the magic tournament locator to find tournaments near you. That's in the rule book. That's it from me.
All right, everybody, stick around. We're going to take a quick break. We'll have some couple of announcements. Hey y'all, thank you so much for watching Attract Mode with us. If you liked this, we'll be live again on Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern sometimes. That's when you can catch Attract Mode every Thursday night at 9 p.m. and every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern to catch even more awesome ladies showing off awesome games. If you want to learn more, visit ladyarcaders.com for more details. I want to remind you all as well that Out of Bounds Toronto's schedule is out now. You can join us in person at Taco Taco in Toronto, Canada on June 14th and 15th for all of the speedruns. And as a reminder, if you'd like to get involved, volunteer applications are still open and close on Sunday, April 19th at 11:59 p.m. EDT. There are remote and on-site positions available, so please make sure to get those applications in. Thank you all so much again for watching. My name's been The Valiant Sun. I was really happy to be able to spend some time with my friends here on Attract Mode, and I hope to see you all around. But for right now, we are going to raid in to a lovely friend, Emma Skyward. But before that, if you missed it, here's our schedule reveal video.
Lady Arcaders, Out of Bounds Toronto's. It's not going to be a normal one. It's actually going to be a pretty weird. It's the most normal sports-themed one. Starting off with a backyard sports spectacular with Anarchy. That's right, video games move over. It's time for sports. It's Super Mario 64, ran by Emily the Koopa. Do you want to see how fast I can count to 80? Because it's an 80-star run. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Scritchy Scratchy by Chaffee. Scratch all of your problems away. With this speed run, you can scratch, and it will be the most scratchful speedrun that they've ever done, ever. Trying to disappear, Yakuza, the man who tried to erase his name, or whatever it's called, being run by Dubious. And starting off the scary block, it's Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. 4, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And after that, a head-to-head everyone's been waiting for. American McGee's Alice by Izzy Hope and Resident Evil Requiem. They're not at the same time, they're actually one after the other, but it's a head-to-head that everyone's been waiting for. And then there's Reanimal Co-op by all of you in Tozzle, in a speedrun that'll make even your normal friends go, oh, did you see that, Lady Arcaders thing? And for those of you who are old glutton for the old Wild West, Barbie Horse Trails ran by Sapphire in Pink. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51. And there's Which Way by Charlotte into Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble with Maple Stargirl, starting off our rolling block. The other thing I'd like to start is a 401k. I don't know, it seems like a pretty good time to do it. Real birds. Hey, you, yeah. Come here. You want to know what it's like to be a marble in the Tron universe? Do you? Why don't you roll on over to Taco Taco 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, and then the Laboa-nominated video game Absalom being ran by 3Pup. L.A. Noire by Laszlo. Cole Phelps is a mess of a man. How can you call yourself a detective if you can't even keep your hat on your head? And the all-time show stealer, Mooncat, 2-player, 1 controller, ran by Swamp Brad and My Serval. That's right, I've been biased this whole time, because I'm in this event. 79, 80. I'm not an expert, I reckon that's pretty fast. Headlander, Out of Bounds % by Metroid Prime. You're not gonna wanna miss it for the world, because it's out of this world, and that's because it's in space, I think. And lastly, it's Mass Effect 3 by Sanjan. It's a shame the Citadel isn't real, because this would be a banger on board. There's so many runs to watch and so many ways to watch them. That's it. That's all the runs. Watch the speed runs. Yep, watch the speed runs. 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 Watch the speed runs.